Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Dr. Soul Brother with another episode wanting to do what? Give you the remedies to cure your ills. I'm not going to be long, but I must be strong right now. Dr. Soul Brother feels compelled to address some serious issues that affect us in our community as well as in the overall American society. So I'm going to just dive right into it here. Okay, first of all, it has been said that on August 11th represented 50 years of hip hop, quote unquote 50 years. And I say that for a reason. Because now mind you, Dr. Soul Brother is not a native of New York. I'll be the first to tell anybody that. However, I have a lot of respect for things that come out of New York, like the music, certain aspects of the culture, etc. I've traveled to New York a couple times. However, I'm also about being a truth teller and laying out facts. It's being said that 50 years, which would be 1973, August 11th, 1973, was when hip hop got started. Well, that's in question. And this notion that DJ Kool Herc, known as, well, his birth name, Clive Campbell, also known as DJ Kool Herc, is the father, quote unquote, of hip hop. That's problematic. And here's why. If you know anything about hip hop from back in the day, um, you have to ask yourself the question: is hip hop solely rap, or is it other elements? The answer is it's other elements. It's not just rap. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that it's solely rap. Can we really say that DJ Kool Herc is the father of hip hop? And then the next question becomes, what makes him the father? And if he's the father, who was the granddaddy? Just thought I'd ask. I'm just saying. Here's the thing: Clive Campbell, aka DJ Kool Herc, was born in Kingston, Jamaica, 1955. He doesn't come to the US until 1967, which makes him 12 years old, 1967. Um, a 12-year-old boy at that time was not DJing. Now, uh, according to what he has said in recent interviews, and I'll address that in a moment. I find it interesting that he has not been giving interviews as of late until just recently with he and his sister. And I have to say, both of you, Clive and Cindy Campbell, we've got a problem. And here's the problem. Uh, you're giving interviews now talking about the party that was given um, there in the neighborhood in the Bronx, 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, I believe that was the address. But the thing is this: what makes Kool Herc the father of hip hop? If he's from Jamaica, and he is, the question becomes: did hip hop exist in Jamaica? Well, let's unpack that. I just said a moment ago, hip hop is more than just rap. It is also other elements. For example, what's a part of hip hop? Rap, to be sure, but also graffiti, also breakdancing. Question becomes: were y'all breakdancing in Jamaica? Were y'all doing graffiti in Jamaica? And were you rapping in Jamaica? Well, here's the thing. Um, Back in the day, if anybody has seen a documentary called The Studio One Story with Mr. Uh, Clement Dodd, aka known as Coxsone Dodd, he was a mechanic by trade, and his side hustle was the sound system with the big speakers and all that. Well, on camera, he stated that he, as well as some other fellow Jamaicans, were working in Florida, South Florida, and they were picking oranges and things of that sort when it was in season. And while there, they would party on the weekend with Americans. Now, clearly, when he said that, mind you, this is during the segregation time, you know, when our society was segregated in the American South. So, they were not, those Jamaican brothers were not partying with no white folks there. They were partying with their American cousins. And of course, they got exposed to American R&B and other uh, American music, American pop music, etc. But it's clear that the American R&B is what got their attention and really set their souls on fire, so to speak. Anyway, let me move on. Mr. Dodd, and it's important to get this backstory. Mr. Dodd brought back records to Jamaica, mostly R&B, and he set up the sound system. Now, he was not the first person to set up a sound system in Jamaica. There were other Tom Sebastian, people like that. The difference was, though, according to King Stitt, may he rest in peace, who was a toaster, so to speak. In other words, that's their way of saying somebody who's an MC, guy on the mic, on camera, same documentary, the Studio One story. He said that while Mr. Dodd was not the first sound system man in Jamaica, what he did, he and Mr. Dodd confirms it on camera. He brought to Jamaica the whole thing about hold on a second. He went on talking about the whole thing with uh how do you say uh the person being on the mic talking. Well, that was something that hadn't been done before. So what he did was that helped to make things exciting. So when they got that from America, remember now, you're exposed to American DJs, particularly black DJs. Um, Jocko Henderson. Um, was it? What's his name there? What's my man? Jack the Rapper Gibson and other folks like that. So what you had was a situation where they got exposed to the Black American culture and the music that come out of Black America that really set their souls on fire. So fast forwarding, um, Kool Herc as a young boy in Kingston was exposed to the sound system. But not only was he exposed to sound system, he was also exposed to uh, the American music that was popular here, like James Brown and other stuff. So when uh, DJ Kool Herc, although he wasn't DJ yet, but when Clive Campbell leaves Jamaica, well, first of all, there's ska and rock steady, and by 1966, ska is going into rock steady. Ska is going into rock steady, and then rock steady comes into being about 66, and then by 67 it's in full swing. Well, this is when Clive Campbell and his family leave Jamaica. Now, since his sister Cindy, who's his younger sister, she was even younger than he was. In fact, if she's born in 65, that would make her maybe 2 years old. So she was a preschooler when she came to the US. The point is this: um, the music that Kool Herc was playing when he did become a DJ in New York were was not Jamaican music because Black Americans at that time in history were not feeling Caribbean music. So uh, when he was started DJing, and by the way, he learned from people like a man named Disco King Mario. Disco King Mario, he come out of North Carolina. So he was a Southerner, and so and we'll deal with that in a minute. But here's the thing. Um, DJ Kool Herc was a contributor as it related to hip hop, but he was not. I repeat, he was not the how do I say? Um, He's not the father of this. He wasn't. So it's unfair and frankly disingenuous to refer to him as the father of hip hop. And anyone who does that, you are either doing one of two things. You're either guilty of being ignorant or you are guilty of being dishonest. But let me move on. Um, it has been said, according to DJ Faze, who come out of Bronxdale neighborhood there in the Bronx, that Cindy Campbell, his sister, would come to Bronxdale. So Cindy, is that true? Did you go to Bronxdale? Because here's the deal. There were things that were going on at least 2 years prior to your birthday party that were going on. So the thing is, you have to ask the question: if you would come to Bronxdale, then you must have got some ideas that were going on there, um, that inspired that birthday party of yours, and had your brother DJing. So if that's the case, then we're dealing with fraud, in a sense, in many ways. Um, and it was clear, if you were there, it was clear that Cindy, you were an outsider, because in that neighborhood, everybody knew who everybody was. So and by the way, there are people around now who remember you and can give testimony to you being there. But let me move on. Rap in this country, in our culture, goes way back to at least the 1930s. Could be earlier, but at least the 1930s. And many of it was in gospel music, like the Jubilaires in the 40s, and going back to the 1930s with the Golden Gate Quartet that was happening. Now, the thing is this. Um, when it come to there was a man named Pigmeat Markham in 1968 who made a song called "Here Comes the Judge." That heavily influenced hip hop. That's 1968. Pigmeat Markham come out of North Carolina, same state as Disco King Mario. I want to say this for a quick minute before I continue. It's interesting that when DJ Kool Herc and his family moved to America and moved to New York specifically, whether you're talking about the Bronx, whether you're talking about Brooklyn, whether you're talking about Harlem, Afro Americana was heavy in those communities at that time. Yes, you had fellow islanders who were there to be sure, but the Afro Americana culture was thick back then. And if anybody doubts it, all you have to do is look at the documentary Summer of Soul that was done, I think, a couple of years ago, that dealt with the Harlem Soul Festival that took place in Harlem in 1969. That's a time capsule. That's a conversation for another day. So I resist the urge of going down that rabbit hole. But I continue. Um, the thing is this: by DJ Kool Herc's own admission, he referred himself as like a hick when he came here because he didn't know how to dress. And anybody who knows black folk in the community, if you don't know how to dress, you got clowned. I know that's how it was when I was coming up. I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but that's just how that was. If somebody uh, didn't know how to dress, you wore high water pants, or back in my day, we called it flooding. Somebody's pants was flooding. You could see um, above their ankles. That was considered flooding. Okay, well that's how Kool Herc would dress, and so that was the thing. And so he, by his own admission, learned to be more hip and all that kind of stuff from Black America. Those are his words. Now, it's interesting that um, Disco King Mario. If you ever see a photograph of Disco King Mario and uh, DJ Kool Herc, DJ Kool Herc doesn't look the way he does now. Back then, he was sporting a natural. Back then, his style of clothes was kind of similar to Disco King Mario. And not only that, the music that he was playing was funk, not just James Brown, but other stuff. Um, and that was popular. And again, what was happening? Now, he might have been listening to reggae music in the house. I don't doubt that at all. But as far as music by Bob Marley and other reggae artists, no, no. At that time, Black America wasn't feeling that stuff in those days. But moving right along, um, the thing that's one of the things that's troubling. There's several things that's troubling, but one of the things that's troubling is how Disco King Mario has been left out of the hip hop narrative, and that's a problem. That's a real problem. And Dr. Soul Brother, right here, is one of those who wants to help change that. Now, there's some other folk who are from that era and from that neck of the woods that can speak on this much better than I could for obvious reasons. I wasn't there. I'm not a native New Yorker. However, when books are written by people like Jeff Chang and other books, and documentaries are done. I mean, there was a documentary, Fight the Power, I think it was called, on PBS that aired earlier this year. And I watched that documentary and I was critiquing it. And one of the things that greatly troubled me is the fact that there was no reference made to Disco King Mario, to DJ Faze, to Coke Rock, to Charlie Rock. None of these folks. And I have to say this, on the cover, I want to say it was 1994. I don't remember the exact year, but Source magazine, it was in the 90s, put it that way, where you had three folk who were part of hip hop. And again, we don't deny their participation and role, role that they play. And that is DJ Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, and African Bambaataa. There's a common thread among these three, Trinity, if you will, and that is all of them had island roots. DJ Kool Herc, originally from Jamaica, African Bambaataa, one of his parents from Jamaica, the other one from Barbados, and Flash, Grandmaster Flash, Barbadian roots. Um, and so this notion that hip hop has its roots in the Caribbean is fallacious. I'm going to use two analogies to make my point. Let's say hypothetically, uh, the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, had been born in, I don't know, some Caribbean island and came to the United States as a preschooler and grew up here and became and rose to become the Queen of Soul. Or say she had been born here but had parents who were from the Caribbean. She's born and raised here and grows up to become the Queen of Soul. How does the Caribbean get the credit? Okay, that's a scenario. But I'm gonna bring up something that's happened for real, and that is, if anybody knows Hazel Scott, uh, a brilliant pianist who did jazz, piano, and all the rest of that. She came to this country from Trinidad at age 4 and grew up here. Again, how does Trinidad get the credit? They don't in either case. Why? Because soul music or jazz music, neither of them are from those islands. Jazz and soul are organic as it relates to the United States. These are the facts. So the fact that Kool Herc is from Jamaica and he was a contributor, let's be clear, he was a contributor. He was not a founder of uh, hip hop. Again, Jamaica doesn't get the credit, which brings me to something. We understand that two things are supposed to be happening right around the corner. I'm sorry, not August, October 16th, 2023, DJ Kool Herc is supposed to receive an Order of Merit award, I believe, in Jamaica. And this is a high award for those Jamaicans who have done things that are outstanding and have contributed greatly to the Jamaican society. Um, and then November 3rd, the following month, DJ Kool Herc is supposed to be um, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because he's deemed as the father of hip hop. Both instances are problematic because, first of all, he's not the father of hip hop. A contributor, yes, there's a fine line between being a contributor and a father or mother of. And he is not the father of hip hop. And it is highly problematic that you, DJ Kool Herc, and by extension, your sister, are not acknowledging Disco King Mario. That's a problem. But you know what's interesting? In July of this year, Disco King Mario was given a street named in his honor. So that's a push in the right direction. But while I salute that, it's problematic that for the longest, DJ Kool Herc has not said anything about Disco King Mario. And he knew rather, Disco King Mario. And Disco King Mario was the man. And I think it should be noted that one of the problems in acknowledging somebody like Disco King Mario is that he was not a native New Yorker. While he became a transplant, he was a brother from the South, and he was not an islander. So, um, the fact that Kool Herc and others, well, let's deal with Kool Herc for now. Kool Herc, you and your sister have been riding this wave, and frankly, it says a lot about one's character or lack thereof, the both of you together. And for you to leave Disco King, when you think about it, this is really no different from what white folks do. They claim the credit for things that black folks, whether it be black folks throughout the diaspora or specifically Africans, have done. And they stamp their names on it, knowing that they didn't create. For example, the father of medicine is Imhotep. But for the longest, they were taking the credit for that. They were taking the credit for a whole bunch of stuff, including some inventions that black folks made. So in many ways, what we're looking at is um, this being done in blackface. Now stick that in your pipe and smoke it. Okay. So my question to you, I have a lot of questions, but one of my questions to both Kool Herc and Cindy, how can you, in good faith, in good conscience, do this? You know that you are not deserving, Kool Herc, of this award when you are not the father of hip hop. And anybody who refers to you as a father of hip hop, you should immediately give them pushback. Pushback. Case in point, how you give an example. Mr. Harry Belafonte, aka Mr. B, was being interviewed by, I think it was Roland Martin or Tavis Smiley, one of them. I cannot remember right off the top. But he talked about how he was referred to as the Calypsonian or king of Calypso. He said, which he is not. Now, Mr. Harry Belafonte, born in the States, spent 5 years of his youth in Jamaica. He had Jamaican parents. And so clearly he was exposed to Calypso music while during his youth. And by the way, just so folks know, while Calypso comes out of the Caribbean and it may have been popular in Jamaica, Calypso is organic to what? Trinidad. That's their genre. And others by extension throughout the Caribbean picked it up. But that's a conversation for another day. The point I'm making is this. Mr. Harry Belafonte, based on integrity, refused that title of King of Calypso based on integrity. And what I'm submitting right now is that you, Kool Herc, and by extension, your sister, Cindy Campbell, lack integrity. You have been riding this wave. And right now, because you've approached the quote unquote 50th, and there are many people like DJ Faze and others whose names I can't even think of right now who would debunk that narrative that hip hop started in 1973 at that party for Cindy Campbell, when in fact it started at least 2 years prior, which would be 1971. Okay? So, the Source magazine that uh, had the Trinity, if you will, Herc, Bam, and Flash on the cover. There was a time then for one of the three, if not all of the three, to set the record straight and explain to people who Disco King Mario is or was. But they've chosen not to do it. They've chosen not to do it. And the thing is this for and let me add this. Let me add this. There's a lot to this, but I want to wrap this up quickly. A brother, Jamaican brother by the name of Ja Bunny, who has a channel uh, on YouTube. He talked about Clement Dodd bringing American records from America and about how Motown music impacted Jamaica. See, that little history right there, that was during uh, Kool Herc's youth. So again, Kool Herc, while of course he was exposed to uh, Jamaican music like ska and rocksteady at the time, he was also exposed to American records, American music, be it Motown, James Brown, Curtis Mayfield, etc., before he arrived here. Okay, that's important. And while I'm at it, let's understand something. 1967 is an interesting year because the genre of rocksteady that came about in 1966, summer of 1966 in Jamaica. By 1967, it was in full swing. And it's interesting to note that there were some songs that were done by Jamaican artists like the Techniques, um, Alton Ellis, and others. Some of the songs that they recorded were actually covers of American songs. Ain't That Loving You, recorded by Alton Ellis, was actually a cover song of Johnny Taylor. Ain't That Loving You. Queen Majesty, You Don't Care for Me by the Techniques. They were cover those two songs, just to name a couple, were covers of Clyde um, oh Lord, what's his name there? Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions, who were very popular and were very influential as it related to Bob Marley and the Wailers. Again, a conversation for another day. But what I'm getting at is this. Um, this right here is problematic and very disappointing. That you, Kool Herc, and by extension your sister Cindy Campbell, do not have enough integrity in your little pinky toes to cite that, you know what? I'm not the true father. And not only am I not the true father, the man, the real man of the hour, was Disco King Mario. May he rest in peace. That would be the more integral thing to do. But you're clearly showing no integrity right there. And the fact that you rode with African Americans, kicked it with you, and you learned from them and all of this, to only now, these years later, turn around and engage in piracy. And by the way, John Bunny referred to um, Black American uh, who led in culture, and he knows that. And he says that Jamaicans engage in piracy. Well, you know what? We clearly see that's what you and your sister are guilty of doing. No, you have no integrity at all, and that's highly problematic. And also, one could argue and say, well, the way uh, Kool Herc looks now with the locks and the way he dresses, looking like a Rastaman, and that reflects his culture. It wouldn't be so bad if you showed some integrity. However, the fact that you are now walking around with a Muda Baruka look, like a dread man, it's speaking volumes. We see and hear you loud and clear, Kool Herc. So the thing is this: it would behoove you, Kool Herc, to do justice by Disco King Mario in his memory, and by extension, his family. That's what needs to happen. Now, I salute New York and the New York City Council member, 18th Council District, for getting involved with the naming or renaming of a street in that neighborhood after Disco King Mario. I salute them for that. But guess what? That's only a step. That's only a step. And I'll add this. and close it. If you had Count Machuki, who was a uh, DJ in Jamaica back in the day. He's deceased now, but if you watch a documentary called I think it's called Deep Roots, that was popular out of the UK. Deep Roots music, and if you watch episode two, part two, in it, you see a Count Machuki who was alive at the time. This is 1982, so this is early 80s. From what we understand, he got exposed to what would be called Jive Dictionary that existed in the late 40s in Kingston, and in it has jive terminology that's in there that was very popular in black culture in America. So the thing is that if he was exposed to that stuff and he incorporated that stuff over the mic, how then can it be said? Two things. One, that rap comes out of Jamaica, and two, that Kool Herc is the father of hip hop. Uh, there's a magazine called Spin Magazine, and in it, there are a couple of articles written, including an interview with DJ Kool Herc and, by extension, his sister Cindy Campbell. This was just done, I believe, 2 weeks ago. We have some real questions about some things that were stated in those articles, but not just from what Herc and his sister had to say, but also the writers who interviewed them. We've got some real serious questions for you. So, in closing, I'll say this again: Kool Herc, you have no integrity. Carol, I'm sorry, Cindy, pardon me, you have no integrity. Um, you are doing what white folks historically have done, and that is, um, you have gone over and engaged in piracy, which is what Europeans have been known to do historically. So you're wrong for that. You're wrong for that. And if I were you, um, Kool Herc, I would seriously, seriously reconsider being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame um, in November of 2023, and also the Order of Merit Award from your country of Jamaica. And to those Jamaicans, somebody said on social media, and I concur with this. You have Usain Bolt, you have Bob Marley, and you have a bunch of others. Leave hip hop alone. Hip hop is Black America's creation. Leave our stuff alone. And that's what needs to happen. So, on that note, Dr. Soul Brother is going to end it here. And I encourage you all who are under the sound of my voice to subscribe to my channel, comment in the section, pass the word along to others. Please comment. I'd love to see and hear what you have to say, whether you like, dislike, agree, disagree, etc. But I'll end it this way. We have the receipts. And for those who are like uh Kool Herc and other Jamaicans, on those who may be writers for Jamaica, where are the receipts? You have none. So until the next time, God bless.